On Look Today, the Adelphi Hotel in Saratoga Springs is undergoing major renovations. I've got details. And economic development in Glens Falls is thriving. More on that coming up. And the Pitney Farm in Saratoga is sold after 154 years of family ownership. Wow. I've got those details. All ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Jay Hood Jackson and this is Look Today. In tonight's program, I sit down with Maggie Frank. Now, she's the executive director of Wellspring. She's here to talk about their work with individuals in need. And this is a second interview in our series, Look Who Cares. I also sit down with Alex Jones. She's a first night coordinator, and we're joined by David Wolf. Now, he's the owner of Saratoga Savoy. That's a dance center in Saratoga Springs. Fun interview. They're here to talk about swing and the upcoming performance on New Year's Eve. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties, but first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, the Adelphi Hotel in Saratoga Springs has been undergoing major renovations for over a year. Now, what was originally intended as a small-scale project turned out to be a structural transformation and major upgrade. Well, currently the renovations of the hotel are still kind of in the beginning stages. Much of the infrastructure was in critical condition. A major steel frame work construction is being implemented to help maintain the original architectural character. Now, it will also include new facilities such as a crystal conservatory and fine dining restaurant. Well, the historical hotel, by the way, it was built in 1800s and is a landmark building in Saratoga Springs. And the goal is to bring back the hotel to its glory and to provide patrons with a very unique experience. Well, we spoke to Dominic Ranieri. He's a principal architect for the project.
This is the front veranda of the Adelphi Hotel. It's exactly as it was in 1877. The columns behind me are the original column structures. They were hollow box columns, but all of the base of these columns had rotted over time. So we've rebuilt the bottom portion of the columns, but before we did that, we peeled the back panel of the box columns off so that we wouldn't destroy the beautiful architectural trim work that's at the top.
Wow. You know, I want to thank Dominic and everyone, the ownership of the Adelphi, for giving us access. And we're going to be following this project closely and more updates on this in the future. It's an amazing project. By the way, scheduled to reopen sometime in 2017. In other news, well, after 154 years of ownership, the Pitney family sold their farm to Pitney's Meadows Community Farm, Inc. Now, the announcement was made today in Saratoga Springs, and community members celebrated the history and future of the property. The mission will be to create a large community-supported farm and agricultural resource center with a bunch of trails. And that was the plan the family always had for that property. Well, we spoke to Sandy Arnold. She's a president of Pitney Meadows Community Farm, Inc.
Oh, tremendous amount of support from the community, the city, the county. We couldn't have done it without all of them. It's just been amazing support. Community, the fundraising efforts have been just tremendous.
Now, we also spoke to Matt Veach. He's the chair of the City of Saratoga Open Space Committee.
Well, it was a lot of hard work, and a lot of people did a lot of good things to get it done, and it was great that the sale is done and we're able to preserve this wonderful farm for communities for the future generations.
You know, preserve is the operative word in that sentence. There was a lot of work that went into putting all of the pieces together to make certain that that tract of land is preserved. Switching from news to weather. Well, after the region got some snow, the temperatures dropped into the low single digits. I think I read it was -6 this morning. So let's see how the weekend is shaping up. For a more detailed look at our weather, let's head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast. Back to the news. Well, economic development in Glens Falls is thriving. If you've been there recently, you know what I'm talking about. And recently, the city received New York State revitalization grant of $10 million. Well, one of the new exciting projects is the renovation of the old Park Street Theater. Well, we spoke to Ed Bartholomew. He's the president of the Warren County EDC.
It will be on the first floor, about 300 seats. They have brought in acoustic architect and engineering to really bring the acoustics up to a really state of the art. And the exciting part, besides the theater, is downstairs there will be a Rathskeller type restaurant.
Developer Elizabeth Smith is renovating the historical building, and the building received a separate grant of $600,000 toward what will be a $3 million project. We spoke to Ed about this.
So Elizabeth Miller had an idea to buy the Park Theater, which was one of the original vaudeville theaters in downtown Glens Falls in the 20s. It had a short life of maybe 10 or 15 years because before it was converted into a printing shop and other assortment of activities. And so she had the concept, and we applied for applications. The first couple of years it was strengthened, and at this point the total project cost will be approximately $3 million.
Well, all right, up next, I sit down with Maggie Frank. She's the executive director of Wellspring. She's here to talk about their work with individuals in need. And this is the second interview in our Look Who Cares series. I also sit down with Alex Jones. She's a first night coordinator, and we're joined by David Wolf. Now, he's the owner of Saratoga Savoy. That's a dance center in Saratoga Springs. And they're here to talk about swing and the upcoming performance on New Year's Eve. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea, how about join us for an interview? Give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000. That's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. We're running short on time, so I'm going to move pretty quickly through this, but it is Friday, so I want to thank the team, and that's Jesselyn and Drew and Andrew, Jack and Joel, Antoinette and Norm for making the show possible each week. And we've been killing it. I don't know if you've been watching frequently or not, but we've got so many great interviews, and the team here has really been working on the stories that we know matter to you. Also, I've got to just give a quick look out to John Baker, the owner of Gaffney's. Last night was a huge party at Gaffney's, and John spoke. He got a little emotional, but quite honestly, the outpouring of support for John and who he is and what he's created was just phenomenal. The best to you, John. SantaCon is an event that's happening tomorrow. It's run by the Franklin Community Center. I don't have enough time to get into it. It's a pub crawl. You have to dress up as Santa. Go to Franklin Community Center's website. I'm sure you can find out the details. And West Mountain is opening this weekend, so don't forget that. Have a safe weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday night for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everybody.